All right, this is Coach Ledbetter. We're going to talk about the quadratic functions. And this is basically everything you kind of need to know reference-wise about the quadratic functions. So when you take your assessment on this, we'll be doing more labeling. And so we'll do a lot of activities on practicing what the different attributes are. All right, so the first thing is we want to know what is standard form. All right, and so standard form, what we do is we say f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, we've also sometimes, let me enlarge that for you because it's a little small. There we go, that's probably. You remember f of x is the same thing as y, and so we could say y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And sometimes you're going to even see it with 0. So you could see ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, all three of those are acceptable, and so just to kind of give you the vertex form. All right, the vertex, which we're going to discuss later, the formula, which is f of x equals a, and we'll discuss this later, x minus h squared plus k. All right, so there we go right there. All right, so what are the key attributes? Okay, so that means key features basically. All right, so what is a parabola? Okay, the parabola is the shape of a quadratic. Okay, so it's the shape of a quadratic. All right, now, anytime you see a square on a variable like x squared, you're going to have a U-shaped parabola. That's what it is. It's a U-shape. And it can open up, it opens upward, or it could open downward. All right, so those are the two things you can see on that. All right, the y-intercept, you know, is where the parabola, and that's our U-shape, our parabola touches the y-axis. And don't forget, usually you'll have like a like 0 and a number for y. Remember, this is your y, this is your x. So your y-intercept is when your x is 0. It's the number that y is when x is 0. All right, vertex. Vertex is the point, and we'll put this down, is the point at which the parabola changes directions. All right. It has a min and a max, and we're going to talk about here in a minute. Okay, so the we're kind of saying that on the other one, so we'll just wait and come back to that. Another thing about vertex, if you notice, it uses an H and K. The H and K is a point. And if you remember, we usually use X and Y as points. H and K is a point, and let me show you why we use H and K. So if you remember, this is Y, there's our A, there's our X, and there's our H, and there's our K. All right, so we're gonna have an X and Y, because you could have a point on this graph here, let's say this parabola. You could have any point on this, and you could have the vertex. Well, the vertex is a point right there, that's the vertex, okay? So the vertex, and we're gonna draw one so you can see it. Vertex is the point, it's like right there, that's my V, my vertex, okay? You could have it going in the other direction too, and I'm gonna try to give myself some room right here. This is my vertex as well, okay? So it's really at the very peak or the very lowest it goes on there. And we use H and K for the vertex because when we do the vertex form, we're gonna need a point, which is an X and Y value. And we're gonna need the vertex, which is an X and Y value, but we're gonna call those X and H and K. All right, the axis symmetry is like what you learned in elementary school. It's a vertical line. You may remember it being the line of symmetry. All right, and remember, this is the one where it kind of divides the two into two equal parts. So this right here is my vertical line. We'll call this in class AOS, or axis of symmetry. All right, it does touch the vertex. It goes right down the middle and touches the vertex. So that's a part. It's the H value in our vertex. All right. All right. So min and max. All right. So max, think about it. Max is how high my parabola goes. All right, that's the height, how high it is. And we'll call this a max, like a mountain. All right, and then and usually the answer is a y value for the equation, okay? Now, if we had a open upward, like this opens upward, then we have what we call a min value, all right? And so this is the lowest it goes. The vertex is usually our k value in our point H and K on the vertex. All right, there are three types of solutions, okay? So if you look here, these are the different names for the x-intercepts. You got roots, zeros, x-intercepts, and solutions. You also might run into functions of zero. I've seen that before. It's another one just in case. And what this is there's three types of solution, all right? Three types of answers. There's where it touches it one time, that's called 1-point solution. Then you could have it where it's touching twice, that's 2-point solution. And then you could have where it doesn't touch the x-axis at all. This is no solution. All right, so now that we got this, we're going to kind of do a couple of these. This is very similar to what you're going to do on the test. All right, so they're wanting to know this right here. This is a maximum value. They want to know what's the vertex. So we're going to say the vertex, if you notice, goes over 1, so it's 1, 1. So the -1, 1. We always put this up here first. So we start at the origin, go over -1, and go up 1. All right, my y-intercept is where it touches, where my line, my parabola touches the y-axis. And here's my y-axis, and in this case, this one is 0, 0. So my y-intercept is 0. All right, zeros, which means like x-intercepts, okay? So remember, zeros, roots, all those fancy ones, they want to know where does my line touch the x-axis. All right, so the x-axis, it touches it at, this is -1, that's -2. So it touches at -2, 0. And the other one is touching, look, it's touching the x-axis here. So the y-intercept and the x-intercept here is both 0, 0, because they're both zeros. Now, my axis of symmetry, that's the line that goes through the vertex. You see here, it goes through the vertex, and it's touching at -1 on the x-axis. See how it's touching? So my equation here is going to be x equals -1. Because look, if I draw an imaginary line, I don't touch the y, I only touch the x. If I draw an imaginary line through the vertex, and it touches at -1, so my equation for this axis of symmetry, or the AOS, is x equals -1. Now, when we talk about domain and range, which we will talk about domain and range, the domain for all parabolas when they have arrows is all real numbers. All right, so if you see these arrows on these guys, it means the domain value, remember we use the double bar, is all real numbers. All right, and then when we're looking for the range value, you want to see how high or how low it goes. So in this case, you notice it goes up here, where the vertex is. Always find the vertex. And the vertex, if we draw a line going across, remember range is the y value right here, it's touching at 1. So we would say y, and now look, the parabola is going down. See how it's going down? So everything will be less than 1 on the y-axis. So like here's 1, 0, -1, -2, all that's less. So we'll say less than or equal to 1. All right? All right, so now we're going to go here, and we're going to do this one right here. All right, so this one, we can start just about anywhere we want to. All right, so the zeros here is 1 and 3. So you could put a bracket with a 1 and a 3 in it. All right, so that could be, remember when it's a bracket, it means a set. So this is a set of x-intercepts, so 1 and 3. My y-intercept looks like it's right here, 1, 2, 3. So my y-intercept is 3, or we could say 0, 3. My axis of symmetry looks like it's going here. It's going right down the middle. Remember, here's my vertex, and it looks like it's touching the x-axis at 2. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 2. My vertex is touching here. It's the point at which it changed direction, and it looks like it's at 2 and -1. So we're going to say 2 and -1. My min value is where it touches here, if you notice here. So this is going to be y equals a -1. I think I've got just about everything here. Again, the domain on this one would be all real numbers. Why? Because you have the arrows, and that means wherever I touch, use the x-axis and go up and touch it. So my domain is all real numbers. What is my range? My range starts right down here. Okay, it's at -1. So it would be y and -1. But look, the parabola is going up, so that means these numbers are going to be greater. There's 0, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. So we're going to say it's greater or equal to -1. Okay, and it's equal to, and I don't know if I explain why it's equal to, is because it's a solid line and it's touching right on that -1. And that's how you do this.